Big events are demanding. That's kind of the whole point. I recently ran 250 kilometers in one go, and I'm still feeling fairly destroyed almost 2 weeks later. In today's video, I'm going to break down the things that I'm focusing on to manage my recovery and run you through some of the mistakes that I've made in the past with the post-event blues so that you don't have to. Please drop a comment at any point along the way with any insights or experience that you might have, and don't forget to like the video as well as hit subscribe so that you don't miss out on the full main event 250 kilometer video going live on Sunday, the 21st of April at 7 p.m. British summertime. Although right now, it doesn't feel very much like summer. Okay, so the first thing that I'm putting a lot of my focus on with my recovery is sleep. After getting 30 minutes of sleep in 3 days amidst running quite a long way, my body and sleeping pattern in general is quite upset with me. So in simple terms, with sleep, I'm getting as much of it as I can and doing everything that I can within my power, the controllables in the evenings, throughout the day, to improve my quality of sleep. I'm also being forced to accept the disruption with my hips locking up, poor blood flow, breathing being all over the place amidst my recovery, and just being aware that that is a part of the process and something that I need to deal with, not letting it frustrate me. I'm only now today, on Friday the 12th of April, starting to feel like I'm back to my normal self and back in my regular rhythm and routine. Got to the office this morning at the time that I normally would, and I'm back in a regular pattern, starting to feel a bit more like myself, but it's taken a while to get here. Second thing that I'm focusing on is nutrition. I burned 21,000 calories whilst covering 250 kilometers, and whilst I was eating plenty along the way, it wasn't that much, and it certainly wasn't particularly micronutrient dense. So key focus for me has been micronutrient density and making sure I'm eating at least 4,000 calories up until this point today. Whilst that puts me in a surplus coupled with almost zero training volume, it's giving my body the best chance of maximizing recovery by having lots of energy to utilize. Plenty of protein, plenty of high quality carbs, plenty of fruit and veg, and plenty of focus on hydration and electrolyte balance. Not rocket science, really. Where I have made adjustments is loosely eating whatever I want within those parameters, as long as the list that I've just given you is covered. If a whole sleeve of biscuits gets polished off with a cup of tea or two along the way, then so be it. The third thing that I'm focusing on at the moment is my training. After a huge physical output, we need recovery. Duh, that's kind of what this whole video is about, but that is underpinned by one simple thing, which can sometimes be missed, and that is rest. After any big event where I anticipate post-event blues being a part of it, I'll always give myself a fortnight to go with the flow, so to speak, where I'll generally focus on longer dog walks, bro lifting, sort of chest fly pump sessions and all that fun circa 2012 stuff, along with maybe some light aerobic work, some biking, some swimming. But I don't have a structure, I don't have a plan. I, as I said, go with the flow and just focus on what is fulfilling and fruitful day to day rather than stressful. This time has been no different. I've been on some longer dog walks and non-dog walks with Erin, my wife. I have done 3 upper body sessions, all of fairly low demand, and I have done 90 minutes total on the assault bike in 3 30-minute sessions. Zero intensity, minimal volume, and plenty of rest. Then on Monday, I am back into a structured and progressive training plan to move me towards my next set of goals, which will be announced very soon, don't you worry. If you find the concept of rest something that's stressful, or if you have a dependency to training and moving day to day that is more psychological than it is physical, then that's also something that I would encourage you to maybe tackle head on, think about considerately, so that you can make sure to give yourself the rest required after you've put in a big shift where rest is required and, dare I say, deserved, to be able to bounce back and move things forwards for your next big goal, event, challenge, whatever it may be. Training, in my opinion, should be positive and fulfilling. 99.9% of us watching, myself included, are recreational athletes, so we should be utilizing it as fruitful in our day-to-day lives and not something that is demanding or making our lives worse in any way. So we need to manage these things delicately so that we can get the most out of the process as a whole. I train with a huge amount of intensity and volume on a regular basis, which is documented for you to see here on the channel. You can go back in the archives and understand exactly what I'm talking about for yourself. But I believe that the reason I can do that is because I respect the rest required, I respect the recovery required, and I can be at peace with my ego, be at peace with myself and my relationship with training to know when I need to rest and recover and take my foot off the gas a little bit to be able to keep keep moving things forwards. One step back for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps forward is better than constantly trying to fight to get one step forward because you feel that you need to be doing everything at all times. That can potentially inhibit our recovery and is something I would encourage us to try and avoid. The fourth thing to consider, and potentially the most challenging one to really unpack for you today, is the mindset and psychology around this period of time. This is the most variable and challenging component of post-event blues, I would say, and is the one where it can manifest most uniquely for each individual. So I don't want to be too prescriptive, but I will sort of share things from my perspective. After a steady build up to a peak, as with all things, we will come crashing down. And with that comes both mental and physical challenges. The biggest thing to focus on first and foremost is being aware that you've done exactly this, and therefore not punishing yourself for not feeling like you normally would, not feeling 100% and having to go through the ebb and flow process day to day. That awareness will help you be more realistic about your recovery process and what you can achieve on a day-to-day basis, and prevent you from getting into the cycle of punishment that I'll refer to a bit later on. I often try and reframe this period of vulnerability, I guess we could call it, as the reflective period where I get to look at the process, look at the event, look at what I want to do next, and use this time to really think on, ponder, if you will, what action to take next, what things to focus on, what things not to focus on, and really digest the lessons that I've learned throughout the process and the event itself. The variable mood, emotions, and fatigue that come with events like this, relatively speaking to whatever they might be for you, is an opportunity to really reflect on what's important to us. And I think it's fair to say in this post-event blues period, you're kind of on your arse, you're kind of a bit weakened. And that's a great opportunity to really think about what's important to you, where you can improve, what you want to focus on, and more importantly, what action you need to take. So if we can try and reframe this as a great opportunity to do all those things, then we can view it as a bit of a gift, which sounds a little bit woo-woo and profound for the channel by regular standards, but I really do think that. I think by exposing ourselves to periods of vulnerability, we can come out the other side stronger and better off. The fifth thing that I'm focusing on is data, and I'm doing that through my Whoop. I'm largely relying on mood and perception of energy on a day-to-day basis, but I'm also keeping an eye on my Whoop to spot any trends or patterns amidst my recovery. Every morning, I'm writing in the journal feature expressing how my mood and perception of energy, as I've just said, is that morning before I kick off the day. I'm then reviewing my recovery score, which is potentially arbitrary in and of itself, unless I make the effort to understand the health metrics that underpin it, which can then paint a bigger picture. I've been focusing on HRV, breathing rate, and body temperature as part of my recovery process, all of which have been quite elevated up until the past couple of days. So we're moving in the right direction. People can put too much emphasis on this data, which I'm keen to discourage, but I do encourage using it as a reference point to spot trends, patterns, and anomalies as part of your day-to-day lifestyle, so that you can take action on the controllables to improve the tangibles, those things being your mood, your energy, how you're sleeping, your routine, your rhythm, your patterns, all these things which can have a huge impact on how we feel and operate on a day-to-day basis. So don't treat Whoop, or any other wearable for that matter, data as gospel, but use it as a reference point as part of a broader ecosystem of things to consider amidst your day-to-day lifestyle. If you'd like to give Whoop a go, then you can get your first month free by using the link in the description down below, and you are also helping out the channel in doing so. So I'm now going to cover off the 4 most common mistakes, and mistakes that I've very much made in the past with post-event blues. Mistake number 1 is jumping straight back in to what has become familiar. And by that I mean that because you trained for a long period of time for something really demanding, we shouldn't expect that the process that got us there should become the norm. And by that I mean that because you trained for something really hard and peaked to something demanding, that shouldn't become the norm because it's become familiar. It's important to highlight the habits and positives that came as part of the process, and then extract those and apply them to our day-to-day life. Physically, you need rest. Psychologically, you need rest. If you don't give yourself that opportunity, you could well make things worse for yourself. Mistake number 2 is not having something to get your teeth stuck into. And by this, I don't mean another big physical event, but rather something fulfilling that requires commitment, because that's what you became used to, albeit coupled with physical demand. So if we remove the physical demand but maintain the commitment, then we can mimic a lot of the value, reward, and familiarity that we had as part of the previous process. For me, this has been getting my teeth stuck into some key business projects that a reduced training volume allows me to really focus on. For you, it could be painting a Warhammer set, gardening, completing a puzzle with your grandmother, whatever it may be, whatever floats your boat. The key is having something fulfilling that requires commitment, because that will mimic a lot of what you feel like you're currently missing from a reduced training volume and demand. Mistake number 3 is not having something to move on to once recovered. And this gets more and more important as events get bigger and bigger and bigger. Leaning into what feels exciting to you and getting it booked in is a very valuable tool. The key detail here is to not make that imminent and round the corner, so to allow for adequate recovery time. For example, my next big event is not going to be until September. More information on that later, but I'm giving myself a long runway to enjoy my training before I ramp back into something big, intimidating, and requiring real laser focus. There unfortunately isn't a timeline that I can give you on this one, as it's entirely relative to an individual's goals and focus points, training history, etc., etc. The only recommendation I will give is to be sensible but not trigger happy, so to allow yourself adequate time to bounce back ready to party. Mistake number 4 is not punishing yourself, and this one might not be as relevant to everyone as it is to myself. I don't know. In the past, I found myself during this post-event blues period, this post-event depression period, getting frustrated with myself that I'm not working hard enough or feeling like I'm meeting the standard that I usually set for myself. This cycle has often led me into a bit of a spiral where I've been despondent with training in my day-to-day life, to be honest, for longer than I otherwise would have been. The best example I can give is after the double brutal extreme triathlon, a 475-kilometer ultra triathlon, video on the screen for you just here, that I did in September 2022. It took me until March of the following year to really get out of that cycle of punishment that I've just referred to. I was punishing myself day to day for not being excited about triathlon training, especially against the context of the fact that I had a place on the Norseman for 2023, which is one of the world's most infamous extreme triathlons. It's a bucket list race for me. It looks incredible, and I was very, very fortunate and privileged to have a place, which meant that I was getting super frustrated with the fact that I wasn't excited day to day about training as a triathlete. But after conversing with those around me and tapping into the support network that I'm fortunate to have, I made the difficult decision to just decide that this wasn't the year for me with the Norseman. And if that meant that I never got to do it, or it would be many years before I got the opportunity again, then so be it. Because there was something internally telling me that for the time being, I needed a break from triathlon and I should apply my focus elsewhere, and making that decision freed me up to focus on top-end strength training and running at the track, which I really enjoyed over the summer. That gave me energy and passion for my training back again, rather than that self-punishment day-to-day that was going with, why are you not excited about being a triathlete? You are a triathlete that lifts heavy weights, that's what you do. When in reality, the beauty of being a hybrid athlete for me is that I can flex from one thing to the next at either end of the spectrum based on what's exciting and makes me curious. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is a simple one, which is to allow yourself to rest and recover, except, most importantly, that there will be good days and bad days, but to not punish yourself when the bad days inevitably come. And that's that. That is how I'm managing recovery after a 250-kilometer ultramarathon, as well as some of the mistakes that I've made in the past, so that you don't have to with managing post-event blues. If you have enjoyed the video, please do drop it a like down below. Make sure to hit subscribe so that you catch the full 250-kilometer video going live on the 21st of April. I haven't even seen a first draft yet, but I've seen the trailer and I'm very excited. And if I'm being entirely honest, probably require the footage to help jog my memory a little bit, because that much sleep deprivation and exertion has taken its toll on me and I can't really remember what happened. So this is going to be an experience for us all, so make sure to hit subscribe. As well as that, please do drop a comment down below with any thoughts, feelings, or experiences or insights that you might have on the topic. There are a lot of people that will watch this channel that will be going through this process themselves at some point, have been in the past, so if we can dump loads of information into the comment section and make it a supportive environment for the vast majority of us here, then that would be a really cool thing to do. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.